Hello everybody and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports for today's 5 thing learns from the Currie Cup semi-finals. I look at a few takeaways in terms of what transpired over the weekend, as well as stuff that's sort of been building up until now, which sort of the weekend kind of confirmed and stuff like that. As we head towards the Currie Cup final on Saturday, kickoff was at 3 o'clock. We will be live for a watch along, so make sure you come and hang out. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, smash a like on the video as well, turn your notifications so that you know when we go live and you can come and hang out and just watch some rugby with us as we just celebrate the culmination of what has been a very interesting competition. Maybe not necessarily the most memorable Currie Cup in terms of, a sensational standard of rugby, but during some very interesting times, very tricky times, a tournament which had its ups and downs, some big performances, some interesting players that have come through. But the main thing was the fact that we actually got some rugby over this sort of a very strange time of year. So it will be one that we will remember for probably the wrong reasons, but nevertheless, it is the Currie Cup and they have managed to get a tournament through. So yeah, without any further ado, just let's head over to what we've learned and sort of summarize exactly what transpired over the last couple of weeks and the weekend in particular. So this is quite a big one. The Western Province once again sort of crashed out of a competition which they, on paper, should have still been in. I think if you look at the two sides, the Western Province probably had a better side on the park than the Sharks did, but just for whatever reason, continuously to kind of they just never seem to be able to hit their threshold. And I think a lot of it has to be at the sort of turmoil within the union, and particularly the boardroom politics, which saw the whole takeover fall flat. I mean, I think as a player, you must really worry about a side where, money is such a big issue, the administration is such a big issue, you're moving away from Newlands to Cape Town Stadium. Can they afford the move? What's going to happen? There's so much uncertainty within the union that it will inevitably affect the performances on the field itself. And I think that is a major contributing factor to just why the Western Province, just can't quite find their rhythm. They've had some very good performances and we've seen some very good individual performances over the tournament because there are some fantastic players. A lot of World Cup winners in that squad. They've done a very good job of retaining a lot of class players. Not having Peter Steph Toy for the entire competition has been a huge loss. And it'll be a big boost for him when he returns. But, the likes of Siak potentially leaving, and Herschel Yankees maybe not playing his best rugby. It's just a side full of stars which doesn't seem to be able to sort of gel together and be able to produce the performances. And I think the biggest thing to try and promote better performances is to try and sort out what's going on the pitch, is to sort all the issues off the pitch. During the sort of next couple of weeks, the Western Province really need to try and find and bring some solidity to the union, sort out the boardroom politics, and let the players just focus on the fact that they've got to get on a pitch every Saturday and get the result, and not have to worry about what's going on in and around them. So I think that's a major contributing factor to why they may be underperformed once again. They were looking good to try and contend for the Super Rugby Unlocked. And I think they had a very good opportunity to go after the Currie Cup and got knocked out by the Sharks, who were deserved winners the day. But yeah, so I think just a lot of boardroom politics that we sorted out will result in much better performances on the field. And this is not necessarily anybody's fault. It was a very young Lions team. But I think what this weekend showed was a lot of nerves on display. You look at the amount of handling errors, the amount of penalties. A lot of the situations that they put themselves in are situations they could have avoided. And I think that, a lot of people agree when we say it's a very young side. It's kind of two opposite spectrums when you look at the players. You've got very young and inexperienced players and then very experienced players. So, you've got Alton Yankees, who's very experienced. You've got Willem Albers. You've got Yanni du Plessis. But, and you've got Burger Windau. But after that, you've got a lot of youngsters, and you think of somebody like Stian Pienaar, hasn't played too much. Vincent Shatuka. Jaco Kriel back in the side, but Len Massey. So, Wanasila Similani, Tian Swanepoel. It's a side where it's quite a sort of blend, I said, between the two. And I think what the side needs is to sort of play these sort of games to try and learn from them. And I think that if you look back at the Lions and the fact when they made those 3 finals, you start to learn how to play a quarterfinal. You start to learn how to play semi-finals. Haven't quite managed to sort of learn how to win that sort of Super Rugby final during the time, but I think having that sort of playoff experience is huge for these players. And just sort of, I think, in many ways, some of the players are a bit of sort of deer in the headlights. Something like Tian Swanepoel dropped the ball quite a lot, struggled quite a bit. So I think it'll be a big learning curve for the side. And I think some players sort of step up when it gets tough. Some players struggle. But I think that it's a side which has a lot of talent and a squad which has a lot of talent, but maybe sort of just that lack of experience kind of let them down a little bit on the day itself. I think there's only so much longer they can continue to ignore the form that Currie Bosch is showing. Once again, a fantastic kicking performance by the fly half. He has an absolute monster of a boot, and that was the reason that the Sharks were in control quite early, because within 11 minutes, 3 penalties, all quite far, just slotted them with ease. His kicking has been fantastic, and whilst his defense will always raise a lot of question marks and will be one of the biggest sort of things holding him back, I think it is only fair that he has sort of earned a potential recall in the Springbok squad with the form he showed over the competition. Probably will be going down as the competition's form fly half. We'll be doing a team of the season next week after the final of that. And at this stage, I think Currie Bosch very much in front of that running. But I think this weekend will be a big test for him. You know, he's up against Borneo State, and he's really been there and done that. Over 100 provincial caps. So he will have a difficult task ahead of him. But he'll have a lot of responsibility to kick well and to get the Sharks over the line and get them that Currie Cup win. And I think he's just playing some really good rugby and must be in the conversation going forward. You know, Jake White didn't shy away from the sort of favourites tag and said that it's not something they should be scared of, being considered favourites. And I think that they've earned the right to be favourites. And this weekend was another display of just how many good and top quality players they had. I mean, you got something like Stravino Yarkos, who hadn't scored a try before this weekend, suddenly scoring 2, and well, fumbling 1. I mean, he could have had 3 potentially. But something like Cornel Hendricks suddenly playing really well. Ivan van Zyl coming into his own. Some really big performance. Dwayne Vermeulen, you know, as a captain. They've just got everything you'd want. If you had to construct a list of everything you need for a top team and a team that's going to compete across any sort of level, the Bulls pretty much tick everything. They've got experience, they've got talent, they've got young players, they've got a good sort of style, and they've got a very settled identity. And I think that's really paying dividends. They will go into this weekend as favourites. They are at home at Fortress Loftus against the Sharks, you know, and you know, you only have to stretch back to sort of the early 2000s, where you remember that Super Rugby loss where Brian Abanda scored that very iconic try. So, you know, it's a bit long-standing rivalry, but I think the Bulls have often sort of had the edge over the Sharks, and I think this weekend they will be the favourites. Not to say that Sharks are not in with a shout, because I think they are. But at this stage, you've got to back the Bulls to be able to go all the way and seal a domestic double, really, between the Super Rugby Unlocked and Currie Cup. So once again, a weekend where the officials kind of struggled a lot. And I think Rasta Wenger in particularly had a bit of an off day. And I think that what we've been seeing across the competition is a lack of quality officials. I mean, between Maurice van der Westhuizen and Rasta Wenger, there's been some really subpar refereeing performances. And what it comes down to for me is there doesn't seem to be a lot of competition for sort of top refereeing. And that's why I like to see somebody like Amy Bergeron coming through the system. And she's had, I mean, her first game, she struggled a little bit, but she was really good in her second game. And I think that she's somebody that's got quite a bright future in the refereeing. But we need more competition between our officials. We need to get more people officiating and more top-class referees. Thankfully, we've got Jaco Paper for the Currie Cup final. But I just think at the moment, she sort of stands alone as someone who we can really trust and to always sort of produce a very consistent performance. And I think that, you know, refereeing is something that South Africa has always been quite proud of. We had some very good referees. You think of something like Jonathan Kaplan, who's a record-breaking refereeing. We need to try and up the standard of our officials because, you know, it's not just the performances from the teams, which I think have been a little bit subpar this season, but the performances of the officials themselves. And that is something that needs to be worked on. So that we can have officials refereeing in like the European Cup, you know, in the years to come, and in the Pro 16 or the Rainbow Cup, or whatever they're going to eventually call the tournament. You know, we want to be able to see South Africans taking charge of World Cup finals, of finals all over the world. But at this stage, I think that the quality needs to improve so we can try and get to that level where we can really back our officials and not have to worry about who's refereeing. You can just sort of say, well, we've got 4 referees, we don't have to worry about them regardless of what transpires. We kind of backed them to do a job. But those were the sort of the 5 takeaways that I took. Let me know if you took out anything from the weekend in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel, smash like on the video if you like this type of content. We'll be back tomorrow with a preview of the weekend's game after the lineups are announced. And then, as I said, we will be live at 3 o'clock on Saturday for the final. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steven, and I'll chat to you soon.